Scientology is brittle, and anything that is brittle will not bend, but eventually it will break. See, the thing is, Scientology is stuck because it depends on the writings of its founder, L. Ron Hubbard, who has been dead, I believe, almost 40 years. And they are stuck to those writings. Therefore, it's going to be very hard for Scientology, and they've proven it time after time, to adapt to changing circumstances. Any healthy organism, group, religion, company has to adapt to the changing circumstances locally and globally. For example, Christianity has survived a couple of thousand years, and during that time it's taken on many different forms. In the beginning, it was small groups of people reading a lot of different books, many books that never made it into the Bible as we currently know it. And they would meet in each other's homes, and they all had a very different quality. Then we had the level where Christianity was taken over by the Roman Empire, and the books were all standardized. People that were using books that weren't allowed by the Roman Empire were persecuted. And then we had various eras of Christianity, and there was a lot of fighting. There was the Protestant Reformation and so forth and so on, until we get to America, where we have almost an infinite number of religions and churches, or even just aspects of Christianity. Judaism is almost 6,000 years old, and it's nothing like what it started as. It started as a religion where there were sacrifices, like, you'd sacrifice your goat or your sheep or whatever, and there was a temple, and there were high priests, and none of that exists in Judaism today, but Judaism still exists. So I give these examples to contrast with Scientology. Scientology is a system that claims to have solved all of the problems of humanity, basically. And when they don't solve the problem, which is basically every time, they always have an excuse. For example, if they don't solve homelessness, well, Scientology says we're here to help the able. We're not really here for the people lower down. We're not here to get people off the street. We're here to help people who are already able to become more able. And so therefore, maybe we'll make a few little efforts, hand out some food, whatever. But generally, if it doesn't earn them money, they're not interested. So the thing is with brittle systems, and I'll go back to something I've been talking about in many videos, and that is communism, and specifically, from my experience, East Germany. Well, basically what you had is you had a system that was very brittle. East Germany was losing their population to West Germany. Basically, back in the day and before the Berlin Wall went up in 1961, you could just walk across the street from East Germany to West Germany in Berlin. And a lot of people did. And when they did that, they were able to claim West German citizenship and live in West Germany for the rest of their lives. So a lot of the most educated people, a lot of the younger people were leaving East Germany, to the point where they had a joke, last one out turns off the lights. And so because of that, they built the Berlin Wall. Now, the Berlin Wall was a sign of brittleness. It was a sign that we can't compete with West Germany in terms of lifestyle, so what we have to do is build a wall to keep anybody from going there and finding out for themselves, because we can't present a life that is something that people would want to stay for, or people from West Germany would want to come over and join. They could have had some amazing communist utopia where everybody was equal, and they could have had a benevolent government. I mean, they really couldn't have, because the Soviets were running the whole thing, so that would have been impossible. But theoretically, they could have presented an alternative that would have been attractive to at least a certain percentage of the population, but they did not do that. Instead, they built a wall and they shot anybody who tried to leave. And then what they did when they started running out of money, because they were brittle and their economic system didn't work, was that West Germany would basically pay for East Germans that they let go. And another little tricky thing they did in East Germany, as soon as you retired, you were free to go. And you could actually retire to West Germany and get a pension in West Germany from day one. And that meant the East German government didn't have to spend money on you anymore. They didn't have to give you a pension. And so they could just get rid of all the old people, which was good for their finances. But anyway, back to the idea of adaptability versus being brittle. If you can't adapt, what happens is, and when you're brittle, when you have a brittle system that cannot bend, what happens is that at some point, you get to this breaking point, and when it seems like there's no other option, you try to bend. You try to adapt, but you're too late. And it starts a rush to the exits. And so, for example, with East Germany, what happened was there were other countries that East Germans were allowed to go to. They were allowed to go to Czechoslovakia, Hungary, certain places like that for vacation. Well, then what happened was those countries opened their borders and let people leave, including visiting East Germans. So what happened? A bunch of East Germans went to Czechoslovakia, they went to Hungary, and then they went to the West from there. And that started a flood. And why did the Berlin Wall come down? because the East German government tried to loosen their travel restrictions, and they passed a law that said people could travel now. And I can't remember if it was the president or who it was, but somebody said publicly, like, yeah, the law's been changed. Like, everybody can travel now. And that's the night the Berlin Wall came down. People just started rushing the wall, and then it was over in like a day. Okay? So what I'm saying is that what you want to look for in Scientology is, if they ever start, and they might never do it, but if they ever start making concessions, like real concessions, I don't mean PR concessions to make them look better. I mean real concessions. Like, if Leah Remini's injunction to stop them from doing fair game and various other parts of her injunction that I can't name right off, but really to stop them from doing the things that they normally do, if that succeeds, then they won't have certain tools at their disposal. And that could start a whole process, right? If the point is, if they open up just a little bit through very minor concessions, like, for example, if they let Sea Org members have telephones and call friends and family whenever they want, it wouldn't take long before the Sea Org was emptied of all of its members. Not all, but a huge percentage, enough to make the Sea Org non-functional. It would start with a few people that would have some nice conversations, that would reconnect with people they weren't allowed to talk to before. And then that crack in the dam would quickly open, and the whole thing would break. So they can't do that. They have to stay brittle. But the thing to look out for is, if Scientology starts changing their L. Ron Hubbard technology and rules in any fundamental way as a concession to public opinion, to bad PR, then what will happen is you'll have the first cracks in the dam. So that's why right now they stonewall. They try to wall themselves off from any negative messages from others. And they blast music so that the protesters on Hollywood Boulevard's screams are not heard. They keep all the Sea Org members in the back where they can't hear what people are yelling through the front door, if they can make their voice heard through the music. And so they try to protect everybody from hearing anything that could plant doubts in their head. The thing is, to the degree that they stop doing that, doubts will be planted in people's head. And at some point, they will make a concession, and the dam will start forming cracks, and then it will break. Either that, or they will never make any concessions, and then they will break also, because they will lose so many members, they will lose their paid people, and then finally they will lose the whales that keep them afloat. The rich Scientologists who donate sometimes tens of millions of dollars to keep Scientology running. Those people, at some point, because super wealthy people are status oriented. And when giving to Scientology ruins your status in the community, then it's not going to be something you want to do for long. There's always going to be somebody, there's always a diehard that never quits until the end. There always is. But that won't really matter, because when those whales start taking their contributions back, or refusing to give contributions, and then they have no new members coming in, and then the people who are assigned to recruit new members are leaving, then it's going to be like the former East Germany. Last one out, please turn off the lights.